Good morning, everyone. Okay, we'll continue our book reading this morning, Advanced Selling Strategy by Brian Tracy. We're in chapter 10, which says Closing the Sales, the End Game of Selling. Yesterday, we looked at price as an objection, and we looked at the other types of objection. It taught us how to go about issues of pricing when they come up with clients and customers when we are having a sales conversation with them. It also taught us the tricks that most clients and customers might use when they want to dismiss you. That is talking about pricing. It also taught us that most people who have bought quality things didn't really think about the price, but thought about the benefits of using these items, this product, or using these services. So most of the time, pricing is not actually an issue. It is just a way of dismissal. Okay, so today in our book reading, we're looking at price in its place on page 373. Price in its place. Still talking about pricing. So in the last chapter, we saw that the law of the four states that there are usually four reasons why a person buys a product. There is the main reason or the hot button, and there are three minor reasons. One of the minor reasons may be the price in comparison with other items, but it is never the major buying factor. It is never the critical element that determines the outcome of the sale, one way or another. As we talked about in prospecting, if price comes up earlier in the conversation, you should defer it to a later term. Like a matador step aside when the bull charges, you should step aside and let the price question go past you. As we saw, usually the very best way to do this is simply to say, Mr. Prospect, I know that the price is important to you. I am going to cover it thoroughly. Could I come back to that question in a few minutes? If the prospect insists on knowing the price immediately, you can tell him you don't know exactly what it would cost before you ask him a few questions. If I could ask you a couple of questions, I could give you an answer that is accurate to within a couple of dollars. For example, I would need to know dash, dash, dash. When I was attempting to set up an appointment on the telephone, I would get through the right person and introduce myself by saying, Hello, Mr. Prospect. This is Brian Tracy. I am from the Institute for Executive Development, and I was wondering if you would like to see a way to increase your sales by 20% to 30% over the next 6 months. Because I was talking to sales managers and sales executives, people who are both busy and impatient, they would almost always come back with, how much is it? I discovered early that if I gave them the price of my training service, they would immediately say, I'm afraid we can't afford that at this time. Send us information in the mail and we'll get back to you if we change our mind. I soon resolved not to give any information about my service or to make the slightest mention of price when I was setting up the appointment. This is how I did it. When I called up and introduced myself and the prospect asked, how much is it? I would quickly say, Mr. Prospect, that's the best part. If it's not exactly right for you, there is no charge. This almost always stopped him cold. There will be a silence on the line, and then he will say, what do you mean no charge? I would then reply very firmly, Mr. Prospect, whatever I show you, if you don't like it, you're not going to buy it, are you? He would say something like, you are darn right, I am not. I would then reply, smiling into the phone, and Mr. Prospect, if you don't buy it, there is no charge. It won't cost you anything, and all I need is about 10 minutes of your time to show you what I have got, and you can decide for yourself if it makes sense to you or not. This wording proved so successful that I could eventually get 4 out of 5 or 9 out of 10 appointments cold calling out of the yellow pages. I quickly built a $1 million business in sales training using this method, and it worked equally well face to face. A saleswoman friend of mine in Chicago who makes more than $150 a year on straight commission in a highly competitive industry deals with this price question all the time. A couple comes in and one of them immediately asks, how much is this going to cost? She turns and gives her best grandmotherly smile to the prospect and says, honey, if you don't like what you have, you're not going to buy it, are you? One or the other member of the couple always says, well, no, we are sure not. One of the other member of the couple she then says, and honey, if you don't buy it, it is not going to cost you anything, is it? They both nod and agree that this is true. She then says, why don't we first find you something that you really like, and then let's see if we can get it for you at a price that makes sense. What do you say? She's one of the most successful salespeople in her field because she knows how to gently deflect the price concern at the beginning so that she can deal with it thoroughly later. But only after her prospects have decided that they really want to own what she's selling. When a customer is insistent on knowing the price before he will listen to your sales presentation, another way you can derail his question is by asking, Mr. Prospect, is price your only concern, or are you going to make your decision in this area solely on the basis of price? Sometimes he will respond by saying, yes, I'm really concerned about getting the very best price. You then come back with, Mr. Prospect, are you going to make your decision solely on the basis of lowest cost product irrespective of attractiveness, convenience, quality, durability, service, follow-up, support, guarantees, or the expected life of the product? You can select the strong points of your product and company and insert them in this sentence. Only one customer in 20 will say yes when you pose this question this way. By asking these questions, you will help your prospect see that you're offering and comparing it with others. You'll be doing him a great service by helping to expand his vision to include everything that should go into a good buying decision. Neil Rackham, in his book Major Account Sales Strategy, writes that junior purchasing managers for large organizations are usually most concerned with getting the lowest price possible from suppliers. However, experienced purchasing agents have learned that the lowest price item often creates more problem than it solves. Senior purchasing agents are more concerned based on their experience with getting the most appropriate and highest quality product than they are with the lowest price product. And they always seem to make better decisions for their company as a result. By the same token, experienced buyers, including yourself, have learned that a higher quality item often turns out to cost less in the long run. That is why it has been stated repeated that if you can afford to buy quality, you cannot afford not to buy quality. There is a substantial difference between price and cost. Price is the amount it takes to purchase the item in the first place. Cost is the amount that is put out to own the item over its projected life. I'll take that again. Price is the amount that it takes to purchase the item in the first place. Cost is the amount that is put out to own the item over its projected life. It is important that you point this out carefully to your prospects, especially those who seem to be most concerned about the initial price. Something that starts off as a low price may end up having a higher cost. Something that has a higher price may end up having a lower overall cost. The customer's concern should be for the total dollar outlay over the life of the product, not just the amount it takes to get it initially. For example, let us say that you buy a $50 car and drive it for 5 years. Because it is of such high quality, its trade in value may be $25,000. It has therefore cost you $5,000 per year, or just under $500 per month to own the car, exclusive of insurance, service, and gas line costs. On the other hand, you could buy a $15 car that begins to fall apart as soon as the warranty expires. By the second year, the cost for parts and service could be eating you alive. By the end of the third year, the car could be in such a bad shape that it would be better to scrap it and get a new one. Your actual dollar out of the pocket for the $15,000 car could end up being substantially greater for the expensive car, and you will have had all of the headaches and problems associated with it as well. This is the key to dealing with price question. When you're selling a more expensive product, you must think it through and present it to your prospect in terms of its cost over its serviceable life. You must use good number and solid mathematical reason to divert your prospect's attention from the initial price tag to the real value and the cost of what he gets. No one is likely to pay more for what appears to him to be the identical product or service. Your ability to differentiate your product from those of your competitors and then to show your prospect that the value he receives more than offsets the additional price he pays is key to succeeding in this part of sale. So this is where we'll stop for our reading this morning. So pricing is not part of the major concerns that customers and clients may have in terms of patronizing you or trying to purchase your goods and services. Quality is actually what they are looking for. Most times they consider price when they have a similar product to that of yours that is cheaper. There are sometimes that customers will tell you, there's this similar product that is out there. You say your own is quality. All those ones too out there are quality, but they are cheaper. But most customers will also consider their lifetime, services. How long is this going to serve me for a lifetime? There was a customer came in here. I was like, all this extension people are selling, costly. You can get it cheaper outside and the rest of it. So Mr. Osman was trying to explain to the customer, so it's not better you get an extension that you're confident about, that you know it to protect your appliances, and in the next 5 or 6 months or in the next 1 year, you're not buying any other extension, or you're not experiencing fire, or you're not interchanging extension every 1 month or 2 months. You're buying a new extension, and because you bought it at a cheaper price, so it's going to cost you less in terms of the appliances it is going to protect than considering the price at this moment to serve it for a very long time. And I could notice the customer actually just kept quiet for a while because he was thinking over it. Then he was like, okay, after the meeting I'll come and get your items, I'll come and get your product if you say this is what it does. So that is a very good example of trying to explain your product, giving your customers your benefits and features and benefit of your product or service for them to be able to purchase. So that's just a brief summary of our reading this morning. Thank you.